Welcome to the DJ Motors YouTube channel. I'm Junior, and this is the story of the Bmvette.
Life is this. I like this.
So this car started life as a 1989 BMW 535i, and it was an automatic. My mom bought this car for my father back in '95, and I can remember numerous of memories that were created as a child in this car. My mom and dad would take us to Wonderland, take us out to all the parks, and even to Costco. This was his summer daily. He would park it over winter seasons and drive it around in the summer. Unfortunately, my father passed away in 2005, 3 days before my birthday. My mom continued to drive the car around for a couple years, ultimately parking it due to some transmission issues. She decided to keep the car for me. She parked it for around 10 years in our underground basement at our building. And she decided to keep the car for me so that one day I could enjoy it and possibly make it my summer car. So when I turned 16, actually a little bit before that, I decided to purchase my first car. I've always loved cars. I've always been around the presence of cars. My father was a salesman, so I would always remember going to the dealership he worked at the time. It was a Ford, and I would sit in the new Mustangs, shift the gears a little bit, just sit in there pretending to drive. I always loved cars, always had that love and passion for them. So I figured, what would be a better thing than getting my own project car? So when I was about 15 and a half, I bought this 1990 325i. It was almost like this car. It was the 3 Series to the 5 Series in the BMW lineup in the early to mid 90s. So when I got that car, I started to finally get a grasp of cars. I got to put my hands in the engine bay, change the spark plugs. I learned how to change oil, did my first ever brake job on that car. And I started to gain some information and knowledge on cars. And I said, maybe I should check the floors of this car. I ended up replacing the floorboards. Then I ended up spray painting it in a parking lot. And anyways, that car was what started it for me. But this story is not about my first car. This story is about this car. So once I got rid of that car, I had a reliable daily driver. I figured that it's time to, fix this car, get it back on the road. This is now 2017. I was about 17 years old. And my buddy and I started to do what we wanted to do, which was a manual swap for the car. I had met a guy a few years back from Quebec. His name was Louis. And Louis was a good guy. I ended up getting all the manual swap parts from him. Drove all the way to Quebec one night, grabbed the parts, slept at my cousin's house, drove all the way back. So my buddy and I, we made it a point. We're going to do this transmission replacement. We're going to swap the car from automatic to manual. So in the same parking garage that the car was parked in for so many years, I got the tools ready. I did some research. Boom, we started. We jacked up the car. We put it on jack stands. We removed the exhaust. That's all about as far as we got that day. Next day, I went to school, came home. My mom starts calling me. She's telling me, there's letters on the door. What did you do? What did I do? I opened the papers that they sent, and they had about 12 pages with printed photographs of my car on jack stands, tools everywhere. And when I was done, I just threw a tarp over it. And so they basically said that they were, this is not allowed. They're unhappy with what I was doing. And so I had to think of another plan. So I was speaking to my mom about it, and she recommended that I call one of my dad's friends. He was the mechanic on the car when my dad owned the car and was driving the car. So if you live in the GTA area, you might know the shop. It's a very reputable shop. It's called Bimmer Sport. And so I gave Charlie a call. I told him who I was, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he was more than willing to help me out. So he helped with the manual swap, got it done. A couple weeks later, I remember that day, we went to go pick it up. My cousin came from Ottawa. My buddy came with me. My girlfriend came with me. We drove all the way there. We went. We picked up the car. This was the first time I got to drive the car legally. When I was young, my mom used to take me to the cemetery. We used to go visit my dad, and she would actually say, you know, if you want, you can hop in the driver's seat and you can just go around. So that's actually how I learned to drive. It was in this car. We were at the cemetery visiting my dad, and I used to just drive little laps here and there with my mom, obviously. And you know, so it was just like a very nostalgic feeling, you know, like it reminded me of the good days. And so I remember that day that we picked up the car. This was the first time I was able to drive the car on the road. You know, I had my license and everything. Everything was good. And so I drove the car like that with the manual swap, the stock 3.5 inline six, just did the maintenance on it and started driving it. The first summer we went to Montreal. We did a trip for Bureaucracy, me and a bunch of buddies. And the car drove amazing there, amazing back. And you know, I was so excited to show my family. I drove the car to Ottawa a handful of times that summer. The car was running great. So winter's coming up, I had to park it. So I took it, parked it back in the same basement that it was always at. This time it's in running condition. I started to get some ideas as I started to gain more knowledge on cars. I was thinking that, you know what? I want to put more power to this. I did the research. I found out that the big 3.5, they called it, was good for boost. So I started to piece together a turbo kit, standalone ECU. I started to get more knowledge on what was needed to get the job done. Decided I needed to pick up a better clutch. Got the exhaust, you know, all the components, intercooler. So then the summer came around. The season was about to start. Same buddy. We turbocharged the car. It took us 3 days from start to finish to assemble the car, assemble the kit, work out any bugs. So after those 3 days, the car was turbocharged. It was running, you know, from what I knew at the time, pretty good. You know, we got to hear all the noises, got to feel all the boost. It was pretty good. And from there, we drove around the summer, boosting around here or there. As the summer went on, you know, we picked up little problems here and there. We would fix it and whatever, just continue driving, you know. So that summer ended. The next summer came around. Over the winter, I did a couple more modifications, flipped intake manifold for the throttle body, so the charge piping's cleaner. You know, did some maintenance. The turbo manifold was cracked, got it repaired, blah, blah, blah. And then near the end of the second summer, driving it boosted, the turbocharger said bye. The bearings failed, and it started to eat the compressor housing. Heard that story before. And I had to basically make the decision now. Am I going to spend the money on a good turbo, or is there something else I want to do to the car? So I had the car parked up for basically the rest of that summer. I never repaired the turbo. I just had the car back in the basement, sitting there, sleeping again. Once I did some more research, found, I heard, I was working at GM at the time, and I know the LS motor is like, you know, hands down one of the most reliable powertrains you can put in any car. I knew it was going to cost a pretty penny to, you know, get the whole build completed, but, you know, I was kind of leaning towards that. So then from there, I had posted up the powertrain from the car, the engine, the transmission, the drive shaft, the full exhaust, basically the entire setup, ECU, harness, everything, the whole turbo kit. And after a couple of weeks of talking to people back and forth, I found a buyer. The buyer came, he saw the car, you know, checked it out, and he's like, you know what? Boom, he gave me a deposit, took the motor out, took the whole powertrain out, everything. He came, picked it up, and there you go, she was gone. Powertrain was gone. So then that's when I thought to myself, now that there's no engine in this car, you know, this is going to be the only time I'm going to be able to do this. So then I decided to remove all the brackets in the engine bay, shave it down, make a little bit more room, and I want to paint it. So I made the plan, gathered a few buddies. They worked at the body shop at the time, and they're like, yeah, you know, let's get it done. So back to a buddy's garage, took the car there, we did all the work, grinded down the whole engine bay, body filled all the areas. And I had chosen at the time, because I had already dedicated my car to an LS swap, I said, what better color to make the engine bay than Corvette red? So ended up painting the engine bay Corvette red, added a little bit of custom sparkle and flake into it. And by the end of the weekend, the project was done. I left the car at my buddy's house for a little bit. And then I located a vehicle that was in the friend group, I guess you could say. I knew the original owner of the vehicle. He had it since brand new, and I felt comfortable purchasing the vehicle to get the motor from. So I had purchased this vehicle. I started parting it out. I took the engine out and then sold a bunch of parts on it. Sold the vehicle in the end, and I had my motor. So I had my motor. It was on an engine stand, sitting for a while. Then my fiance and I decided, you know, it's time to move on forward in life, you know. And I made I'll call it the executive decision to put my car to the side and focus on what the future has for us. So we thought it would be a good idea to purchase a house. You know, we were young and we were thinking, you know, maybe we can get ahead, and so we can purchase our first property, and, you know, we can be all settled, live together for a while, you know. So I ended up selling a bunch of extra parts I had for the car. I had a nice set of wheels, some interior, whatever. Sold whatever I didn't need for the car. Moved the motor over to my fiance's grandmother's house. Moved the car back to the basement where, you know, now it really was going to sit for a while. Had the tarp over it, and it sat there for about 4 years. Come forward 4 years in time. It's 2022. It's November. I'm just taking a drive to work. I remember this morning. I'll never forget it. It was raining. It was very foggy. Couldn't really see much, and it was dark. So here I am, just cruising to work, and I'm using Waze. We use Waze around here, you know. It lets us know the fastest way or whatever. So it told me to go down this one road I've never been down before. So I'm just, okay, I'm cruising, not really paying attention to my phone at this point. It said go down this Miller side road, so I went down. I'm just driving, you know, taking a look at the scenery. And, you know, there's saying, sometimes you're on the road looking at the scenery, and then the next, you're in the scenery looking at the road. And that is literally what happened. All of a sudden, through the thick fog, stop sign popped up out of nowhere. Slammed the brakes on the truck. It didn't stop. It was wet, slick outside. And boom, I saw a couple trees in front of me. And I thought to myself, okay, brace yourself. It's just going to be a couple trees. It's going to be a hard hit. So I hit the trees, and I guess they were little trees, because before you know it, I was past the trees and down a 20-foot cliff. My truck went face first down this 20-foot cliff and landed on its roof at the bottom. When I realized what had happened, I was in a panic. I'm upside down, looking out the back window, got myself out of there, and, you know, recovered, thankfully. Minor injuries. You know, I was off work for 6 weeks. And during that 6-week period of time, I had like a lot of time to think. And I said to myself, you know, we got the house, you know, work's going okay. Yeah, I've been off for a while now, but what's a better time to build this car than now? You know, I just thought to myself, life is never guaranteed. You never know what's going to happen to you. So why wait to have your dream car when you can have your dream car while you're young? What's better than that? So from there, I kind of set together a plan. I purchased a hoist. I purchased a welder. And I said, you know, the time is now. So I had gone, picked up the motor from Grandma's house. I picked up my transmission I had lying in my bedroom at my mom's house. And so I had assembled the motor, the powertrain, put it together. One night in the garage, I had some buddies over. And I'm like, you know, let's get this motor and transmission together, and then let's get it in the car. So we had some struggling getting the motor and transmission made or whatever. They ended up leaving for the evening, and I put the motor and transmission in the car. So for the first time, I had the engine in the car. You know, I purchased whatever other tools I needed, like one of those supports to support the motor. And then I started, for the first time ever, fabricating engine mounts. So I did more research about, where the engine has to sit, the angle. Then I thought about, what about the driveline angle? Anyways, long story short, I learned a lot building this car. I got the powertrain in, got the turbo kit made, had a buddy come over, we learned how to fabricate. All of a sudden we're running the welder, we're running the bandsaw, we're making pie cuts. And, started the car late January. And 2 days after my birthday in June, so around June 10th, I took the car for its first road test. Road test meaning took it to the gas station, brought it back, and I'm like, okay, I need to find a tuner. Found a tuner, really good guy to work with, 5'9" Motorsports, Stu. He's the man, Got the car running much better. When I first put the car together before the first road test, I drove it out of my driveway and noticed that the clutch situation was not going right. So there was a lot of things that just weren't 100% with the car. And my main goal for that year was to get the car running, engine in, everything assembled, put together, drive shafts, a lot of things have to go into it. The wiring, the fuel system, piecing together all the whole kit. And for my car, there is no kit of any kind. Everything has to be custom made. So that's what I did, right? And so anyways, fast forward from there, got the car all sorted, got it tuned. By the end of June, we were ripping. I was sending data logs back and forth, getting the tune fixed, updated, whatever. And so the car ran actually great from June till the end of July. Near the end of July, I just had finished wiring in some gauges, just doing some like little final touches, to make the build more complete. I just took a look at the turbocharger because it's in the headlight. I just took a look at it and I noticed the same thing that happened to me before. The compressor wheel started touching the inside of the turbo. And mind you, it was about to be August and we had all planned to go to Detroit for Woodward Dream Cruise. It's a cruise they do, whatever. The whole point is that we're going to go cruise there all together, me and all my buddies. And we're going to go cruise there and spend the weekend looking at cars, driving around, right? Like, good times. So I had to quickly go find a turbo, what turbo I wanted, ordered it, get it express shipped over, put it on the car, find out I need to change the downpipe, change this, change that. Got the car all back together, zipped up. It was great. Got the car ready for Woodward. So August came, we drove this all the way to Michigan, drove it all around in Michigan, traffic, stop and go, on the road for hours. No problems whatsoever. Brought the car back, no headaches. It was amazing. The car started to prove to me that it was really reliable. I would drive it to work every day I possibly could, right? After that Woodward trip, I got the itch. I'm like, I want to go drag racing. So, what did I do? I thought I could prepare the car for drag racing. Went to Cayuga, test and tune one night. I got a U-Haul trailer, towed it up there. It was a Friday night. We go on the track. It's the first time I've ever been on a track. I'm racing the car. I'm trying to get a good launch in. Every launch, I'm, messing it up. It's spinning. It's tire hopping. Finally, I think I get a good launch in. Boom, I broke the diff. So put the car back on the trailer, towed it back home that night. Next day, took a look at the car, realized what I had broke, repaired it, put it, you know, got it good enough. Continued to drive the car, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need a set of slicks. So I bought a set of slicks, took it to the track, and oh man, let me tell you, that was my biggest regret. Trying to launch this car on slicks with a stock transmission, a T56, from an F body that was completely unknown to me. I just bought it off Facebook. Unfortunately, I tried to launch the car. I had it on the launch control. Everybody was so excited to see this car go. As soon as I dumped the clutch, the car squatted and snapped the friggin' input shaft. So now I was out of a transmission. This was September, late August, early September, and now I knew my car was out for the season. I had it in the garage, parked it up. This time it didn't go back to the basement. It came here. I had it parked up, and I was kind of searching what my options were. The transmission that I ended up choosing was a T56 Magnum, and it was an Magnum F, so it's the same transmission that was in the car, just upgraded. That cost a pretty penny. Got the car sorted, and then I thought, I had broken the diff in the past, so maybe it's time to put a new diff in the car. So, I did some research and found out, the best diff is a Ford 8.8. So, the only IRS diffs really available, plenty around, are from the new Mustang. I ended up finding a good deal on one, scooped it up, and then that's when the next part of the project started, was putting this Ford Mustang rear diff into this car. So I had custom made all that, got some custom axles made, got the drive shaft changed. Same guys who made the drive shaft. Shout out Cardanic. So basically got the new diff in, got everything made, and then started driving the car this season, and it's just been perfect. Drove it to Ottawa on this setup, drove it to London, basically drive the car every day that there's sun. Not one day I don't drive it. And so that's basically the story of the Bmvette and how it became what it is today. And Alright, enough talking. Now that you got the story of the Bmvette, let's lower this thing down on the ground and let's give you a closer look. So this is the car. It is now wrapped nightshade purple. My fiance and I decided to wrap it kind of on a whim. We tried to do the spoiler that I have on the car now. She ordered a little piece. She said this is the color that we want to do because she knows this is close to my favorite color. My favorite color is the Techno Violet, the BMW Techno Violet, which you could have got on this car. So she saw the wrap. She said, you know what? Let's order a little piece. Let's try to do the spoiler. So on a Friday night, the wrap came. We tried to do the spoiler. We got the hang of it a little bit, but then we completely failed. We ripped a hole in it, and my confidence was down. But she said, let's do it. We can do it. She motivated me. She ordered the wrap, and we started. We started with the fender, then moved on to a door. Then we did the whole C-pillar, and turned out pretty good. YouTube University really helped us with this. The interior of the car, we got these Recaro pole position seats, fire extinguisher mount. Here's a steering wheel, anti-lag switch, custom shifter surround, Apple CarPlay deck. Got the little Holley screen mounted right there. The car's running on a Holley Terminator. Got some Style 37s with the spinners, powder coated white. Car's on coilovers. This is the engine bay. This is a 6-liter LQ4. Got some Moroso billet valve covers. Here's our turbocharger, 78, 76, billet wheel. Teal wastegate, 44 mil, a full 4-inch exhaust front to back. We did this project very recently. Let
him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
The half cut hood. I always wanted to do it. So I had the opportunity to do that recently. This is the paint in the engine bay. It's the Corvette red with a little bit of sparkle in there. It's a little dirty right now, but I don't know if you could see it. Yeah, so I custom made this whole turbo kit here. Got the pipes at the bottom, V-band manifolds, custom wastegate location with my favorite custom wastegate dump out the front bumper. Very big fan of that. Happy I was able to learn how to do that. We got the turbocharger in the headlight. That's something I've always wanted to do. Never got to do it with the original setup. So with the LS, I figured, might as well get it done, do it. I really wanted it. So yeah. Custom license plate. Just got it. Kind of always thought that after I have the LS in there, and the perfect name for this car would be the Bmvette. My fiance got me that for my birthday. So we're at the back of the car now. Got this spoiler on there. Custom 560i badge. Fuel cell setup in the trunk. Now let's lift this thing up and let's take a look at what we got underneath. Here you can see our fuel system setup, twin fuel pumps, post filter, and this is the Ford 8.8 setup. All the brackets are custom. Axles are custom drive shaft, 1350 U joints. Got my DJ Motors Racing sticker up there. I was lucky. I got this Diff. It was brand new. Came in the Ford crate. Here's our full exhaust, 4-inch front to back. Yeah, it touches the ground. Here's our new T56 Magnum F configuration. Here you can see the rad setup, remote oil filter, and yes, the intercooler definitely hit the ground a bunch of times. Car's pretty much stock suspension other than the coilovers. All the arms are stock. Everything's been replaced at one point, but obviously the car is driven, as much you can see it's dirty, gets driven as much as possible. So yeah, so this is what it looks like underneath. For the Ford 8.8 setup, I actually purchased a secondary subframe, cut it. Did take a lot of work to get that project finished, but turned out well in the end. It is a robust differential. Thanks again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the story of the Bmvette. I'm hoping to get some more content out for you guys, and maybe you guys can give us a like, a comment, maybe a subscription, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.